I need to.
All right, Chair, whenever you're ready to start, we are ready.
We'll open the, oh, where's my script? Sorry, folks.
You don't need a script, just introduce me, please.
Gary, tee it off, please.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Welcome, Commissioners. This is the issues list for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. All of the Commissioners are present. We'll start with a county audit update. We have Krista Wolf, Deputy Director of the Finance Department, and the Moss Adams team, which I know Kevin Mulieri is one. And Krista, do you know who else from Moss Adams?
And Ashley Austin, partner with Moss Adams.
Great.
So good morning, Chair and County Commissioners. What we have been doing is we have been providing our Commission a periodic update on the status of our audits to keep you all informed and to be as transparent as possible and keep our public fully informed on this process. So today I have with me Kevin Moeller-Liley. He's our senior manager on the job, and he's going to share some quick information with you to give you a status update, as well as Ashley Austin, partner with Moss Adams.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I want to give you an update since we last spoke. That was just before Thanksgiving, November 24th, gave you an update on the 4 smaller county service districts and West audits that were issued. Ashley and I also gave that same update to the full audit committee in mid-December. Since then, we've issued the 3 remaining component unit audits of the county that we expected to get out before Christmas. That was all 3 of those were issued as planned to meet the state's December 31 filing timeline. Good news there, all 3 audits received clean opinions on the financial statements. There are no findings to report in accordance with government auditing standards. And they also all got clean opinions with Oregon minimum requirements. So no compliance issues over things like budget or procurement. The Housing Authority has one additional piece, that's with their federal awards audit. We need to check their compliance with uniform guidance, and they had no compliance issues to report. So really great success for those 3 reporting entities that roll up into the county's financial statements. And that kind of leads us with where we are today. Ashley and I have a team that got started on the county's general-wide audit last week and then continuing this week. We're still in the early stages, and what we're doing is the county provided us their year-end numbers, so we're starting audit work on that. We won't have draft financial statements from the county until early to mid-February, and then at that point we can really get into auditing the financial statement balances and the key disclosures. The other part of the county's audit that we're doing is the federal awards audit, and new this year is CARES Act money that the county certainly has received. I think upwards of $7 million is being reported on the schedule of federal expenditures for FY20. You'll have a lot more to be audited again in FY21. So the CARES Act money, which is called the Coronavirus Relief Fund Program, is something that we're starting to plan and will be auditing over the next month. So we're expected in working with Chris and her team and Elizabeth to issue our reports in early March, and I think we're on pace to do that. We have a meeting set with the audit committee on March 10th to go over draft results before we finalize our reports. So that's really an update on the county's audit. Anything I can help you with? Any questions?
Commissioners, are there any questions for our audit team?
I would just add, I think with our new commissioners, and I know that Chair Smith has been on the commission before, but I think it'd be a good exercise to at a future work session on the audit, that we have some kind of a discussion about what a typical annual audit is and isn't, as well as what performance audits are, so that my colleagues understand the difference of the two, and where, why, when it's appropriate, or how we go about doing performance audits to make sure that they are meeting the public's perception of what an audit might be as best we can. That's all I have to say.
Yes, Moss Adams is happy to give that update.
And I can help coordinate with Moss Adams to make that happen for you all.
Any other comments or concerns from commissioners? Gary?
All right, thank you, Kevin, Ashley, and Krista. Next, advisory boards and commission appointments. Christina, please.
Hello, I am just trying to move some people out real quick and then I will get going. There we go. All right, so we have 3 advisory board recommendations for today. The first is Water Environment Services Advisory Committee of Clackamas County, staffed by the Department of Water Environment Services. They have 6 available seats and 6 applications were received, and all of them were qualified for the vacant seats that they applied for. The 6 recommendations goes as follows. Lori Oland, appointment for her first term, and she would be an unincorporated representative. Christopher Bowker would be appointment for a second term, and that would be a Gladstone representative. William Gifford would be a second term for Oregon City representative. Michael Morrow, appointment for a second term for a Happy Valley representative. Anthony Fields is a second term for Milwaukee representative, and David Schleff, second term for business representative. The next is for the Pedestrian and Bikeway Advisory Committee.
Stop a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I'm reading the meeting packet,
Yes.
trying to find the names from Wes. I don't see them because your presentation is not in order of the information I'm receiving on the packet. Am I looking at something wrong?
No, I was just going down a list that I pulled up.
Okay, okay. And because if there's anybody else out there watching in our community, they could be running into the same issue I am. Okay, Christine, we just did Wes.
I can do the Pedestrian and Bikeway Advisory Committee next.
Okay, hang on a minute. Is that up next on my packet information? Yes, it is.
Yeah, that
Yes,
was
it
the
is.
first one.
Okay, so in the future, can we do that in order of the way the information is presented? And
course.
it will certainly help me.
Yeah.
Look at this. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Absolutely. The next is for the Pedestrian, Bikeway, and Advisory Committee, staffed by the Department of Transportation and Development. They currently have 9 openings. 9 applications were received and 9 are recommended to be appointed. The 9 are Del Scharfenberg for the 5th term, Pete Ehrig for the 3rd term, Dick Weber for 4th term, Dale Gunther for 7th term, Kenneth Sponsel for a 2nd term, Hans Serik for a 2nd term, Steve Adams for a 1st term, Bradley Bondi for a 1st term, and David Weber for a 1st term. Then the last one is the Library District Budget Committee. It's staffed by the Business and Community Services Department, and they currently have 2 openings. 2 applications were received and recommended for appointment. They are Karen Maury for a 5th term and Marissa Soltz for a 1st term. And those are your ABC recommendations for today.
Move for approval.
I hear we take motions on this. Yes, we do. Paul has made a motion. Do I hear a second? Commissioner Scholl has seconded. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from anybody? Hearing none, Christina, would you please take the poll?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, the motion passes 5-0. Gary.
Great, thank you, Christina. Next, I have listed rescheduling the board ceremonial swearing in ceremony, but I'm going to pull that at Chair Smith's approval to talk offline, and we'll bring it back to you, commissioners, perhaps next week. I will say, for anyone wondering, the commissioners are sworn in. They're able to do their jobs. They were privately sworn in. This event we're talking about is simply a ceremonial swearing in. So Chair Smith, Commissioner Shull, Commissioner Schrader, you're all legit. You've been doing your work since January 4th. I read somewhere online that you weren't sworn in. Well, yes, you were. I'll clarify that. This is a ceremonial event we're talking about. So I'll come back and bring that to you the next issues, commissioners. Next, this is not listed, but we do want to give an update on the project Turnkey application to the state, which is for hotel purchases for homeless folks, and give an update on both the Econo Lodge, which the board has previously talked about. So Christina, could you please bring in Rich Swift and Jill Smith to have a quick update, and then any conversation the board would like to have. We'll wait a moment for the room to load. There's Rich, there's Jill. So please give a quick overview of where we're at so far, and then we'll have a quick conversation. So Rich or Jill, whoever would like to start, please.
So we can start with good morning to the chair and board. So we have on Econo Lodge an update regarding where we are on our due diligence with that site, and also we had a community listening session on Friday. So what I'll do is turn that over to Jill, and she can give us a quick overview of the details of due diligence and also the community listening session.
Good morning, board. Thank you for this opportunity to share that there were substantial findings, needs for repairs and replacements for a total cost of just under $165,000, including an entire roof replacement, some exterior issues, full hot water tank replacement needs, and some others. And because of these extensive costs, we feel that Project Turnkey funding likely is not the appropriate source to acquire the Econo Lodge. We do feel strongly that the neighborhood, based on community engagement that happened Friday, overwhelming support, overwhelming comments of already seeing improvement because of the investment that's being made right now in the temporary winter shelter services. It was really inspiring to hear that there's already several folks that were living homeless in the community that have been placed in permanent housing. So the model that we've stood up, albeit just through April, that's there, the neighborhood overwhelmingly is in support. I think we had 2 that spoke that were against of many. So because of that, I just wanted to mention that while Turnkey may not be the appropriate resource, that might be a site or at least a neighborhood that we should consider investing in down the road when we have access to additional funding. Any questions on the update on the Econo Lodge acquisition through Project Turnkey?
I just have one. Jill, was that session recorded? I've got a couple inquiries as to people wanting to listen to that who didn't have the opportunity to participate because of the odd timing.
I believe so, and there's another one scheduled as well that's later in the evening, and it was recorded, and there's a report being prepared.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment that I was able to listen on Friday, and I learned a lot about the views of the community, and was I think it's worth all of us taking the time. Even it's like an hour. How long was it? Like an hour and a half, or just over an hour? So even for parts of it, I couldn't listen to the whole entire listening session, but it's an excellent way to hear what our community's thinking. I really appreciated that.
And then I just wanted to touch briefly that we intend to move forward with due diligence for a different site using the Project Turnkey funds, which again it's a time limited opportunity. So at the board's request, we will be coming in February. I don't have the exact date with a policy session to discuss this further.
Any other comments for Jill Smith?
Well, Chair, on this topic, I had some comments I wanted to convey to my colleagues and to the public a couple times late last year, and each of those times I made that attempt. That effort was cut short by parliamentary procedure, and I'd really like to be able to complete my thoughts. I think the public deserves that. The public has asked me for what else was I wanted to convey and discuss, and I wasn't able to do that. So if there's time, I'd like to take that opportunity now.
Paul, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. So colleagues, late last year, when we were discussing this, and I had concerns about, process. I had concerns about what was conveyed to us on November 17th. It sounded like the purpose was for victims of forest fires, that the timeline had a deadline of December 31st, a number of things that turned out really not to be accurate. Staff explained some of that. Some of that I think is left still with me scratching my head a little bit on that. But the point, I think the point of the matter at the time is that how we go about doing these things and what the opportunities are out there, and knowing what we discussed earlier in executive session today about other opportunities. I think it's important that we set the county up, the entire county up for success, as opposed to failure. And knowing that housing is an important issue as we go forward. This board 4 years ago, set about changing our goals and our priorities and making housing one of the top priorities. Again, I applaud my colleagues for joining me in that effort and joining me in that call, to the need. With that said, we went out and we tried to do a very sophisticated, well, I say sophisticated, very diligent, it's probably the better word, very diligent process. And knowing, I think as public officials and those of us that have been around the block, my colleague Martha and I have worked together for long before I became a commissioner at different tables. So we understand public process and how difficult and how necessary, frankly, and how valuable they are, frankly. And with that said, I think it's imperative, frankly, that if we set about rules, or not rules, or guidelines, and we are listening to our staff and the issues about, if you're in a place, do you add poverty in an area that's already impoverished or highly impoverished? Do's and don'ts about how to engage a community and not turn it into turn that community in a negative way, and to lift communities and help, and then again spread affordable housing essentially and across the county geographically in an equitable way where people are able to succeed. The national studies have shown that people that are financially struggling or homeless or being sheltered or of low income are far more successful when they are placed in areas in which the economics and the local environment is of more average income. It is of higher income than not. So if they're basically they're put in impoverished areas, they're unlikely to succeed. And so the principle there was, you don't concentrate poverty in any one area. And I felt that was one of the principles that I learned from our own staff, which I value. So we set about 3 years ago the Veterans Village as an example. I appreciated my colleagues at the time who joined me in that effort to talk to other counties and learn what to do, what not to do. Learn from the mistakes maybe of our neighbors to the north in Multnomah County that had a tremendous, even today, still do have a tremendous amount of controversy and impacts to their communities and neighborhoods because of how the homeless or the sheltered are, the processes are done and how that's worked out or not. And now we have some resources out there we didn't have 3 or 4 years ago with the affordable housing measure and the homeless supportive services measure. We have some resources to better address that, which is great. However, we were very diligent with taking the very careful steps that we learned from other counties and jurisdictions around the state, and learn lessons of our own and how to work with our county and our community. And following at least one of the major principles here I want to put out there is that building trust with the public, or building public trust. I think that's imperative. So Commissioner Schrader, thank you. You joined me. Our staff that joined us, thank you. We went basically door to door to the business community in the local neighborhood and talked to them first and listened to what their concerns were. And we had some difficult conversations, but we went about it, I really think, and I think a fantastic way. It was difficult, the public processes that we went through with land use, with our staff, our departments working together collaboratively in a multidisciplinary strategy and approach. And we had our housing meetings, Commissioner Schrader and I, thank you, you and I both, and staff, Emily, all of us spent a lot of time and work trying to get it right. So knowing that if we were successful with this, that the model that we used would be the model we would apply going forward. Build on our success, set ourselves up for success. Okay, so we developed a lot of principles, and the goal was do it right, and then we would be able to talk about the next shelter if needed, and the next shelter if needed, and again, building community trust. And I think public trust is you can't put a number on the value of that. You can't put a dollar figure on that. I think it's an invaluable thing, and I'm not willing to really sacrifice that or jeopardize that in any which way. So I think we need to walk the walk. We say we got to do what we say, and so I just think it's odd that on this particular project that we weren't as accurate as we could have been. We did not use our interdepartment either efforts or disciplinary activities, our disciplines, our professions, and work together to say, is this a good move or not? And we just seem to just kind of jump in with both feet and really not go about this in a thoughtful way. And I know it's difficult. This is always a difficult topic. No one wants it in their backyard. And frankly, I think the learned lessons we found out was if you can avoid yards altogether, backyards altogether, and not do it necessarily in highly populated areas, you are better set up for success. And I wish the staff report was made public, in which we had some other opportunities, or still do, frankly, have some other opportunities around the county. But for crying out loud, I mean, I really thought that doing it right the first time, and then leveraging and risking all of that to not follow all those things does not build trust. And so I don't know if we've damaged or how we damaged trust. I really don't know that. I think that at least what I heard from how it went on Friday, the listening session was, I'm going to listen to it myself, but I think that in listening sessions all together, I think we need to somehow know that in the absence of being able to meet in public, that when our neighbors talking face to face about a community action, because when we have things like this, we do this in a public way, in a room, in buildings, we invite people, the public, but with COVID, we can't do that. So we're forced to have these listening sessions. But with listening sessions, you don't know where people are at. You don't know if they actually live in the community, and that was a concern that I heard. And I don't know how we assure or ensure that the people that are speaking are actually people that are affected. And I think that, again, the approach that Martha and I did, you go door to door and you knock on those doors and you talk to them property by property, you know who your audience is, you know who you're talking to. And I think that directness is extremely valuable. And you are putting a face, you're putting your reputation or the county's reputation on the line when you talk to them. And I think that direct contact is important. And I was very very uncomfortable because of the simple fact of this. We did not follow what we agreed on as a future strategy going forward, a thoughtful strategy on how and where we site anything. I don't care if it's a wastewater treatment plant, it's a housing facility. We have a process we followed and we follow. And I think we ought to abide by that. And I think that is the most important element of what really bothered me the most. The fact that we are in these economic times is unfortunate. The fact that there are more people going homeless is unfortunate. And the other part that astounds me more than anything, and with my back injury and being flat, I had a lot of time to think. And I'm really scratching my head today thinking, frankly, to everyone out there listening, and I'm gonna kind of close with this. We have limited housing in this country. Not enough. We have limited housing in the state. Not enough. We have limited housing in this county, certainly not enough. And there's people on the street that demonstrate we don't have enough housing. So somehow we need to cope with the population we have. And, you know, we ought to be taking the steps to prevent people from going homeless. But for all the years of my efforts trying to speak to this, everything that we could have done wrong, it seems like I don't say we Clackamas County, but we the region continually do wrong. So are we really trying to prevent people from going homeless? Are we really trying to put people in a prosperous position as opposed to an impoverished position? It seems to me that we ought to be caring about displacement. Doesn't seem to be a lot of political effort that way. I don't see a lot of political support for that. I think there's been a lack of political support for a number of things. I've brought developers and people with money, okay, to the table to talk about affordable housing that's cheaper than the cost of building affordable housing the way we do it. $250,000 to $300,000 a unit is not affordable. Okay, $400,000 a unit is not affordable. It's a misnomer. What we need is affordable housing, not unaffordable affordable housing. And the fact is that when we don't look at those models, I wonder, why are we looking at models, tiny home models, manufactured housing models? Why aren't we looking at that? Why do we choose the most expensive version? Okay. Why are our public policies continually, we know why people get displaced, but yet we continue to take all the steps that make people homeless, okay? I really wonder if a lot of us are truly motivated and why we don't seem to be. It seems like we really don't, it seems like we want to be, pardon me, and I say we, I'm talking about the region, I'm talking about the state. It seems like we're not taking the steps or taking the actions that are seem to be logical. It just lacks logic that we would taking all the steps, it seems, that is making affordability farther and farther and farther out of reach and making more and more people homeless. I hope that prosperity is something that's attainable. I hope it's not a dream. I hope that home ownership is important. I hope that's not just a dream, but the values and the quality of life and our duty to make people's lives better is first and foremost a priority. And to ignore, frankly, some of these things and to have my colleagues around the region just seem to turn a deaf ear to all those things, I really wonder about how genuine we are. So if I'm missing something, and again, I mean this broadly, and I mean this within our own county. Someone explain to me why we're not taking the most imperative steps to make people's lives better and be proactive and less reactive. The more proactive we are, the less reactive we need to be. That concludes my comments for today.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioners, any other comments?
I have Commissioner Scholl and Commissioner Schrader with their hands up.
Mr. Commissioner Scholl, thank you.
Yes, Chair Smith, Commissioner Savas, that was, you're right on target. Why does our region have some of the most costly housing in the nation? Is it because of restrictive land use laws from the state? Is it because of the effects of restrictions from Metro. Houses that people can afford come from the zoning that allows for the building in the free market of residential projects that our people can afford. And those residential projects that we need are not of the types that were built in the past. We need to have smaller, more affordable housing for our people. And until we can do that, and until we can have a truly business-friendly environment, available housing that's affordable, a friendly business environment, we will continue to have this problem with, especially what transitional homelessness, where people drop out of the job market, can't afford the rent anymore. The idea of supporting housing measures like Metro's last measure that come out of the pockets of the people who are already struggling to pay for their mortgage and their rent is not sustainable. At some point in time, the Metro type housing measures like we saw last year are going to be totally unaffordable. We need to get back to the basics of the problem. That's identifying why our housing is so expensive and what we can do to attract those businesses that really want to come to Clackamas County, because it's the best place to be to have a business. Until we can get a rope around that, we're going to continue to have transitional homelessness. And of course, the episodic and chronic homelessness requires other things in terms of mental health and drug intervention. So that's the big thing. And the problem is, the easy part is to go and come up with yet another supportive housing measure to kind of put a Band-Aid on the problem. The difficult part is, like Commissioner Savas says, is getting down to the nuts and bolts of why we are where we are today. And until we understand it and fix it, we're going to be the same place we are tomorrow, except only worse. And like, I agree with Commissioner Savas. What's happening in Portland, what's happening in Seattle, and in San Francisco on supportive housing is not what we want to do in Clackamas County, because we all see the results of it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, Commissioner Schrader has her hand up.
Yeah, I'm just going to make some suggestions here. So let's look at this project and let's look at Estacada. That would be my suggestion. But I think, Gary, what my suggestion would be is how we moved ahead with the Veterans Village is how we brought all the domains together and how we brainstormed. And quite frankly, redevelopment there, this could be, as far as I'm concerned, not only, serve an immediate need for transitional housing, but it could also help them spur their redevelopment in the area. And I think what we need to do is, why don't we get together across the various agencies the way we did it before, because that way then we can make a better case. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? We can make a better case, any kind of development there that is going to be housing. And then the opportunity, as Jill said earlier, about eventually, okay, taking a look at it for mixed use, things like that. If we can kind of get some ideas in that direction to solve the housing and kind of really set the stage for more housing out in the rural area, I think that's a way to go. So could we somehow bring together informally, I mean, it's another Zoom meeting, we just all get together and kind of pull that together like we used to and brainstorm and
I think that is all of the commissioners' comments, I think, are worthy of consideration. We're going to have a policy session on this in 2 weeks, is that right, in February? And at this time, I think it'd be appropriate to start making these suggestions and move forward on the outreach. In the interest of time, we really need to move on. Paul, can you be brief?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I appreciate Commissioner Scholl's adding on to my comments. I just want to clarify we may not agree on this or may not understand this fully. This is a very complex topic and it's just multifaceted. But I just wanted to say that I think that having some element of supportive services out there is a value to the community, and especially when it comes in the form of, whether it's mental health treatment, drug treatment, and all those things that we need, which is one of the reasons I've been advocating for years for mental health facilities and sobering centers for those with addictions and so forth, which are some of the causes that keep people in homelessness. So but I think, again, we need to be able to do that in a sustainable way. And we also need to, again, build ourselves out of this hole that we're in, and give our people a lift up and move our community upwards. And I think that right now the trend seems to be downward and not upward, and that concerns me.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul and everybody. Gary, let's move this along, please.
Yes, and so we'll have a policy session on February 2nd to further delve into these potential hotel acquisitions and to talk about housing in general. So that's to come. Thank you, Rich and Jill, for your update. Next, back to the agenda. There's a draft board order in your packets, commissioners, that relates to COVID-19. It is a document that Yamhill County commissioners approved, and it was brought forward by several members of our business community who asked if Clackamas County would consider a similar resolution. The resolution basically acknowledges that the county should have greater influence with the state on determining what risk category we're in, that we're better partners with the Oregon Health Authority, that businesses be allowed to open. There are some legal ramifications that I'm not sure we would agree with, but all to say is, I'm asking commissioners today, would you like to have a policy session to move forward and discuss this in greater detail, or do you want to kill it right now and not move forward? So not to debate the resolution, just would you like to move forward with a policy session or not to discuss doing a similar resolution at Clackamas County?
Gary, this was brought forth by the North Clackamas County Chamber, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Well, they have quite a large membership, people. I am inclined to at least discuss it. I don't know what the legal ramifications of the wording in this particular resolution. It could be kind of dicey from what I read. Commissioners' opinions.
I'm willing to have the discussion, and I'm probably inclined, frankly, to craft our own and maybe use some of the elements that are in there. I can think a discussion around that would be good in the near future.
Martha.
I'd be inclined to discuss it, but I agree with Commissioner Savas.
I agree with Commissioner Savas as well. Commissioner Scholl.
I think Commissioner Savas's idea is a good one. Let's go with it.
Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Fisher. I see your wonderful smiley face. Hello.
Hey, thank you. I was kicked out of the meeting, so I don't know what, I just got back in. I don't know what we're talking about. What are we doing?
The resolution that submitted to us from the North Clackamas County Chamber about opening businesses. Yamhill County and other counties in Oregon have adopted. What we're looking at is a Yamhill County resolution, although the discussion has been from all commissioners. We should probably discuss this in a policy session, possibly draft our own with the advice of county council.
Yeah, I would be in support of that. And also with the advice of our public health director and Dr. President as well.
Our public health director is Philip, right? Yeah. Yes. Okay, Stephen, you have a comment?
No, I really don't, but I will say this, that this was shared with me by my counterpart in Yamhill County. And both Yamhill and Josephine have filed legal actions called validation actions to the court, the circuit court, both in Josephine County and Yamhill County. And they are seeing if the court were to uphold these particular board orders and resolutions. So that is something that I would recommend we wait and monitor as well to see how those courts handle those matters. But I'm
Stephen, how long will that court action take? It could take a long time.
It's supposed to be expedited, Chair Smith, so it's on the fast track, and I've asked both my counterparts in Josephine and Yamhill to keep me apprised of it. And I haven't heard anything recently, but I'll certainly get a more firm time commitment from them and let you know.
Okay, yet also commissioners may have value in just doing a resolution supporting our businesses if these court cases come back adverse to these two counties. So let's consider that too. Gary, I'm inclined for you to schedule a time for us at least to begin the discussion. And this is an opportunity for each commissioner to submit language and move forward on this. So let's and I don't think it's an effort in futility either. I do think this board needs to make a statement in supporting our small businesses, large businesses, medium businesses. That's just me. Gary?
All right, thank you. I'm hearing consensus. We will schedule a policy session. We'll add some edits to this proposed document and frame it more towards the Clackamas County resolution and bring to you at a policy session for discussion. We are on it. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
up next.
Next, your review of your business meeting agenda for this Thursday, January 21st, 2021. We will have a wildfire update and COVID updates. A reminder, we moved that from Tuesdays, what we normally do today, to Thursdays instead. And then a consent agenda, all with items you commissioners had already agreed to put on the agenda. Yet if there's anything there you want to have a second question about or more comments, if you would let me know prior to Thursday, staff can answer those questions for you. Next, Chair Smith, you had asked for the board to discuss the Association of O and C Counties membership. Currently, Clackamas County is not a member of this association, but you wanted to ask if the county would consider rejoining.
Yes, commissioners, I think this is very important with the amount of timberland we have. Although our ONC counties lands aren't as great as other counties, I understand we do receive revenue from that. And that should more than offset our membership, if I'm remembering that right. I may not be. Also, in the light of our wildfire situation in our forests, I think it's just very important that we show cohesion across the state of Oregon in the membership of ONC county lands. Any other comments from Paul? Paul, you're unmuted.
Hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, my comment is I have in the past so much in my wheelhouse, and this has not been in my wheelhouse, that I have relied on my colleagues who have been focusing on this, and Commissioner Humberston was one of those, and Commissioner Schrader was the other. So I would just kind of get the inclination of and Tootie, I think when you were on the board, this is one of your interests as well. So if the board is supportive, that's great, but I'm relying upon your knowledge and expertise on this one.
I have been invited by the chairs in this group. I attended the meeting in December, and the other counties in Oregon were quite enthusiastic and elated that Clackamas County wanted to join them and support their timber efforts. And I think it shows a lot of goodwill, it shows support, just as our overall membership at AOC.
I'm fine.
Commissioner Shaw?
Oh, sorry.
Chair Smith, I think our membership in that association is very important. I'm hoping that in the future, Clackamas County will be able to gain more control or effect the action at least over the management of our timberland, both state and federal, because it's not being done now. Our fires last year are evident of that, and anything we can do in the county to become more active in taking back control of those timber resources and putting our people back to work, I advocate.
Commissioner Fisher, do you have a comment?
Commissioner Schrader has her hand up.
Commissioner Schrader, beg your pardon.
I'm fine if we want to rejoin, as long as I'm not the point person.
I am more than willing to be the point person, Martha.
I think that would be a really good fit. Absolutely. Okay. All right.
Commissioner Fisher, do you have a comment? Hearing none. Gary, what's our next action on this particular? Do we bring it to a policy? What's our action? Take it.
Actually, I'll encourage you to someone to make a motion and a vote. So it just will notify the association. The county is rejoining its membership. The dues are approximately $25,000 a year. And that supports the organization with lobbying and other efforts. So I'll ask for a motion to approve, and then we'll budget it, or it's technically in the budget. We'll move forward with paying the dues.
Okay. So
Why our motion?
I'll move approval.
Commissioner Schull?
Chair Smith, I'm a bit shocked by that $25,000 a year due.
Commissioner Schull, I'm asking for a second, then we'll open it up for discussion.
Okay, very well. I second it.
Okay, we now may have some discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Schull.
I'm shocked at how expensive that annual dues are. Do we get our money's worth out of it? I mean, I
As
don't
I
know.
said, yeah, Commissioner Schull, as I said, my opening statement, our membership in ONC County lands, because Clackamas County does have ONC County lands.
Right.
We receive revenue off of that during harvest. We
Okay.
receive more revenue off our ONC County lands than the membership dues. And I'm not sure exactly what that figure is because it changes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You bet. Any more discussion?
I just wondered if it'd be a good idea to at least look at the return on our investment in this regard over the years. I know we don't have that with us today, but I think when we put these things under issues, we'll do the best we can to get as much information up front as possible. And that way we could at least help address the questions Commissioner Schull has.
Any other further discussion? Commissioner Fisher, are you there? Okay, we have a motion on the table. I will call for the poll. Christine.
All right, well, we'll start with Commissioner Fisher. Right, come back to her. Okay, Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, the motion passes 4-0. I think we can have staff come back and bring us more information on that. The membership is due in February, and I want to continue with this. Sometimes we take actions as leaders that cannot be measured only in dollars and cents. And the goodwill that's established for our membership in this is statewide. And I do think that's important. So with Commissioner Savas's concerns, we can bring that back and have more information. Thank you, Gary. Up next.
All right. The final item is Commissioner Communications, which I'll ask to hold so we can go through the proposed consent agenda items first and then come back to Commissioner Communications. So as you know, Commissioners, our protocol is staff starts with you, either here at issues or a policy session for proposed consent agenda items on your business meeting agenda. We'll go through this very quickly. We'll do it by department. I'll ask staff to give a 1 to 2 minute update, assuming you've read the materials, and simply seeking your approval to put these on the consent agenda or not. So we're going to start with Christina. Do you see the Sheriff's Office representative? Yes.
I do not yet.
Okay, we'll move on. We'll go forward. Water Environment Services, Greg Geist. Please bring in Greg Geist, and I'll read the item while he's coming in. This is approval of an amendment number 3 to a contract with Murray Smith Incorporated for the pump station rehabilitation and upgrades project, adding an additional $1.3 million for a total contract value of $1.6 million, which is entirely funded by ratepayers of West, no general fund. Greg, go ahead.
All right, good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. This is a request for a consent agenda item. It is related to the design and ultimately construction of 7 upgrades to 7 of our pump stations. We The original RFP, this seems like a big amendment. It's a $238,000 contract, and we're amending it with 1.3 million. But that is how it was designed to roll out in the original RFP. It was a phased project. It allows us to have kind of natural breaks in that process where we can reevaluate and change course if needed. So we did, phase one was the evaluation of these 7 pump stations and very conceptual design. And now we're moving into really the bulk of the work, the design work and through bidding of the projects. Overall, this is going to be about a $9 million multi-year project to, again, upgrade 7 of our pump stations.
Wow, that's really an ambitious undertaking. Good for you. Good for you by not getting behind the ball on this, moving forward and being progressive. So we're not in a catch-up situation.
So
Right.
Chair Smith, I have a question for Greg.
Yes, Commissioner
Greg, could you give me the nature of what we're doing? Because that, I mean, for that many pump stations, that's not very much money. So are these sound actually like minor improvements? Can you just give us some more detail?
Yeah, some of the pump stations are quite small. Golf Club Terrace, for example, up on the mountain, it's just a hut basically. But yeah, it's everything from bringing them up to modern safety standards, modern electronics, modern alarm systems, monitoring, electronic monitoring of the pump stations, as well as in some cases pump replacements. And we are standardizing on a particular brand of pump called Flight. And so as we replace pumps, we will be replacing them with Flight pumps and standardizing on those.
Okay, thank you. Because I know it sounds like a lot of money, but pump stations are, you know, it makes sense that these are actually smaller ones than they are typical large pump stations, which are extremely expensive. So,
yes.
Any other comments for Greg Geist? Gary, what do we take action on this?
Just a head nod. Can we put it on the next Thursday's business meeting agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, and just a point of order. Can we just make sure Commissioner Fisher is connected? It seems
Commissioner Fisher has been excused, Commissioner Savas.
Okay.
Yeah, she had to leave at 11 a.m., so she's probably on her way. So no objections. All right, Greg, it'll be on next Thursday, January 28th.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the Housing Authority, and I'm not sure if it's Rich or Jill, so let's bring them both in. This is approval to execute a construction contract between the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and Grace Point Contracting for modernization of 6606 Hemlock Project. And Rich or Jill, I'm not sure which one of you would like to present. Go ahead, please.
I can, well, I'll just jump in real quick because I got a number of other items. So this is a pretty simple contract. We had a fire in a unit and we are engaging in restoration to bring that unit back online with Grace Point Contracting. They're going to do the work at 606 Hemlock. And so the price for this work is $162,000.
Any comments from commissioners? Hearing none, I think we have a head nod.
Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll put it on the next week, January 28th. Can they wait till then, Rich? Jill? Great. Okay, so Rich, we'll stay with you now. Health, Housing, and Human Services. Approval to accept Oregon Department of Education Grant Amendment 1 for coordinated enrollment for Preschool Promise.
Okay, so this is an award that we already have, and what this amendment does is increase that award by $170,500 to a total of $193,500. So what we do in this work is it's expanding coordinated enrollment activities to create a collaborative and coordinated enrollment process for Clackamas County families who are eligible for publicly funded early care and educational services related to Preschool Promise. And so we'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Question from commissioners. Hearing none, head nod.
Okay. Next, approval of amendment number 2 to an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services for the operation of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, Employment and Training.
Okay, thank you. So this is also a contractual increase of, and this amount for this work is $57,600 for a total of $156,628.85. And so what this allows us to do is customizing employment services for people with barriers to employment within the SNAP program. And so what I'll do is I'll stop there. This is also a community, children, family, and community connections program. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Any concerns, comments, commissioners? Hearing none, I believe a head nod's in order.
Okay, thank you. Approval of a revenue grant agreement, amendment number 1 with Oregon Department of Education, Early Learning Division for Healthy Families, Oregon.
Okay, thank you. So this is also with CFCC, and this is, again, is an increase award, and this increase is $91,823 for a total of $1,792,540.58. And what this program allows us to do is screening and in-home visits to high-risk families, so prenatally and also at time of birth, up to age 3, for child development and attention in terms of parenting style to reduce risk of neglect and abuse within the home. And I'll stop there.
Comments from commissioners? Hearing none, head nod.
Okay, next, approval of an amendment number 14 to an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for the operation and financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery, and prevention services and problem gambling programs.
Okay, thank you. So this is essentially adding $193,913.73 to this grant for behavioral health. And so this is a main part of their funding from the state related to operating and financing our community mental health programs, addiction treatment, recovery, prevention services, and problem gambling programs. And I believe actually I had also talked about this previously. And so this is just another amendment increasing our funds from the state. And so what I'll do is stop there and see if there are any questions.
Comments, concerns? Not in order. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, next, approval of an amendment, an amended and restated county-based services agreement with Health Share of Oregon for public health and behavioral health care and services. Rich.
Okay. This contract also sits with the Behavioral Health Division. So what you have here is actually public health piggybacking on public and behavioral health related to this particular contract. And so this is a revenue contract for $3,764,939. It's going to allow public health to work within its regional perinatal continuum of care for services to new families. It's going to allow for tobacco prevention and cessation work. And it's also going to help fund our community health assessment, which is then going to in turn empower the development of our community health improvement plan, our CHIP, which will ultimately be at some point in front of the board for review and approval and acceptance. And then for behavioral health, this is funding health promotion and peer services, extending our ability to do our 24-hour crisis hotline, and then also expanding our crisis services to those with mental health issues. And so I'll stop there.
Any comments, questions?
Just one comment. That is, this might be a good idea, just Rich, for the public, just to state if there's general fund involved in any of these. I'm presuming
sure.
that it's the answer is no on most all of these. Is that correct?
That is correct, actually. I believe that I'll check it, but I believe in all of these there's no general fund at this point in any of these.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Sure.
Head on, commissioners. Gary, up next.
Next, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for choice model services. Rich, go ahead.
Okay, so this is an increase of $847,893 to a new max of $2,119,732.51. And so the choice model services, what we're doing here through this program, and this is focusing on supporting adults with persistent mental illness, essentially chronically mentally ill. It's going to promote effective use of facility-based mental health treatment. So what I mean there is folks going into the hospital, trying to make sure that related to their admission into the hospital, that time in care for that is exactly what they need and no more. So this is increasing coordination. It increases the accountability related to what I just talked about at both the local and state levels related to working with the state and working with local hospitals. And then it's really focusing on the least restrictive environment possible in terms of long care for folks with serious and persistent mental illness, with the goal of avoiding long-term institutionalization. And so what I'll do is I'll stop there.
Comments or questions, commissioners? Head nod. Thank you, Gary.
Right, next, approval of amendment number 3 to the intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority for Foodborne Illness Prevention Program. Rich, go ahead.
Okay, and just to touch back on the last one, there was no general fund in that one previously. And also there is no general fund here in this one. So what we have here is essentially funding that increases our IGA with the state by $90,069 for a total value of $715,859. And so this allows us to go out into the environment related to food licensing. So it's inspection and helping restaurants, food carts with their provision of food services. And so I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Questions, comments? See none, head nod.
Next, approval of amendment number 16 to the intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, Oregon Health Authority for operation as a local public health authority for Clackamas County. Rich, go ahead.
Okay, so this is amendment. In terms of the total funding for this, I guess in some ways this would be deemed minor, but this increases our total funding by $72,789 to a total of $11,730,162. And so the focus of this particular increase across our work as the local public health authority is a focus on emergency preparedness. It's helping our WIC services, women, infants, and children, and then also flu. So even though we are in this pandemic related to COVID-19, public health is still doing work related to flu and flu vaccination. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
Yes, comments or questions? Head nod, thank you.
All right, and the final one for H3S, approval of amendment number 2 to an intergovernmental grant agreement with the state of Oregon for a term extension to complete services to assist homeless shelter challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Go ahead.
So this is Social Services Division. And with this extension, what it's basically allowing us to do is continue funding, CARES Act funding related to the services described, which is essentially non-congregate hotel, motel vouchering, helping with eligible low-income individuals and those affected by COVID-19 for sheltering during this time. And so what this extension does is it allows this contractual agreement to through June 30 of 2021. And I'll stop there. And there are actually no dollars associated with this one. It is actually just allowing us to continue with the expenditure of these funds. Thank you.
Yeah, Rich, thank you for mentioning that. And I was also going to say, thank you for mentioning the dollar amounts on these grants and then the total at the end. I think that's really informative.
Sure.
Yeah, any other comments or questions from commissioners? Head nod.
All right, that's it for H3S. So all these will go on the January 28th consent agenda. Thank you, Rich.
Sure, thank you.
Next, we'll do transportation and development. Bring in Dan Johnson, please. There he is. First is approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County and the city of Gladstone for traffic signal maintenance and transportation engineering services. Dan, go ahead.
Great. Good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. First and foremost, in light of the prior discussion, I have 4 items in front of you today. There is no general fund associated with any of them. Similar to other agencies similar to other agreements with several local agencies in Clackamas County, County DTD staff has been providing traffic signal maintenance and signal timing support for local agencies that don't have the in-house expertise. This maintenance agreement formalizes an agreement between the county and the city of Gladstone to provide maintenance and engineering support for the city's existing signals and flashers. Right now, total revenue, this is an enormous amount. We're probably looking at like $500 to $3,000 a year, give or take. So it's pretty small.
Any comments or questions? See none, head nod.
All right, next, approval of a supplemental project agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Oregon 211 at Cambi Markham Highway project. Dan?
Great, thank you. ODOT is constructing and installing safety improvements on roads approaching and at the intersection of Oregon Highway 211 and Cambi Markham Highway, north of the intersection, and South Croft Road, south of the intersection. The project will be financed by the state in its entirety at an estimated cost of about $723,000 in federal and state funds. The county will only be responsible for power costs associated with intersection lighting at the intersection, which is standard procedure for intersections that we have jurisdiction over. The estimated cost is about $100 a month. It's basically, how are we going to coordinate with the state to move forward on the project?
You know, Dan, that particular intersection had a huge renovation several years ago from ODOT.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going back and doing exactly what again? They're going to tear it up and they're going to realign it and work on more vision.
So I can walk through briefly the summary of this in the materials that were provided to you, if you'd like that, Chair.
I'll go back and read those. Maybe you want to make a comment, because this is community-wise. People will be paying attention to this one. Let me say.
No, agreed. So
Yeah.
just a quick summary, you know, constructing a 2-inch grind and inlay, installing traverse rumble strips, and installing a through route activated warning system on Cambi Markham north of the intersection. Are kind of that
Probably needed, because this was redone because it was so many accidents and fatalities there. And I'm not sure if we are at the point where it's as safe as it could be. So with that in mind, thank you, Dan. Any other comments? Hearing none, a head nod is in order.
All right, next, approval of a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of rights of way, easements, and fee property for the Jennings Avenue, Oregon 99E to Oatfield Road project, and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions. Dan, didn't we do this didn't they do this already?
No, this is another one.
Okay.
Yeah. As we discussed last week, with all capital projects, we have to do this resolution of necessity. And as I shared with the board last week, we will in no set of circumstances bring forward any condemnation that we haven't had a discussion with the board previously about. But the board has the authority to exercise the power of eminent domain under ORS Chapter 35 to acquire right-of-way easements and fee property by purchasing or condemnation proceedings. In accordance with the procedures set forth in that statute, a resolution of necessity is required before offers are made for needed right-of-way and easements. The resolution directs the department staff to proceed with good faith negotiations for the acquisition of the needed property rights. The resolution further requires the director of the department to notify the board if they choose to exercise that power of eminent domain becomes necessary. Only after this process is completed does it have authority for the office of county counsel to file a condemnation action. As we talked about last week, this is standard procedure, and any discussion about condemnation or implementing that condemnation act would come forward to the board for additional discussion.
Any comments from commissioners? Hearing none, head nod.
Okay, finally, for the Development Agency, approval of a cooperative improvement agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for the Clackamas Regional Center Mobility Improvement Project. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if you've driven around kind of 212, or pardon me, 205 and Sunnyside Road. It's the last of one of our large urban renewal projects in that area. And basically that is at that intersection of those two roads, that overpass, there is a cooperative dialogue that has to take place between ourselves and the Oregon Department of Transportation. Essentially, what this agreement does is it outlines responsibilities for each party as it relates to construction, inspection, right-of-way acquisition, and maintenance. Construction is underway and will be completed by September, estimated to be completed by September of 2021. Some improvements being constructed by the agency are within ODOT right-of-way. ODOT is responsible for inspection and acceptance of those improvements. ODOT is responsible for maintenance of those improvements. The agency did require some right-of-way for the project. Some of the acquisitions need to be conveyed to ODOT because the improvements are within those areas that will be owned and maintained by them, not the county. The county will be responsible for operation and maintenance of all improvements within our county right-of-way. The agreement is required. As a part of it, there's a reimbursement to ODOT as it relates to their work and what that might look like, to the tune of about $60,000. And the agreement is in place for an extended period of time. There's no general fund dollars, but again, this is an agreement, a project funded by urban renewal. There's no general fund associated with it at all.
How much is the amount, Dan?
The agreement is about $60,000.
Okay, make sure you have that listed on the consent agenda.
We will. It's in the draft, in the materials before you today. It's listed on the draft copy as well.
Thank you kindly. Any other comments? Head nod.
All right, thank you, Dan. Finally, we have for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and I'm going to present today due to a miscommunication. I'm sorry to the sheriff's staff. So I will present first. Request from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to accept a grant from the Oregon Impact for reimbursement for activities related to distracted driving enforcement. So this is for the Sheriff's Office to receive a grant of $20,000 from Oregon Impact, an Oregon nonprofit. This will reimburse our sheriff's deputies who will conduct driving enforcement operations during the month of April 2021, which is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. So this is to seek approval to apply for a grant of $20,000 that will come to Clackamas County for distracted driving enforcement.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, head nod.
All right. Second request is also by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for enforcement of the Oregon Motor Carrier Safety Action Plan. This is where the Oregon Department of Transportation would pay us at Clackamas County $25,000 for our sheriff's staff to conduct commercial motor vehicle inspections, which is an agreement ODOT can make with local public safety agencies. So it is for ODOT to pay us a total of $25,000 to conduct this work on their behalf.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, a head nod.
Now, both of these items are somewhat urgent, so the Sheriff's Office is asking, can we amend this week's business meeting agenda to add both of these items to this week's consent agenda? Would that be acceptable, Chair?
It is for me, commissioners.
Fine.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. You know, there's a new chair here and there's a new sheriff there, and sometimes things get overlooked. So let's make an allowance for that.
Thank you all. So we'll add these two items to this week's agenda. Everything else you heard today will be on next week, January 28th consent agenda. That was quick, commissioners. You did that in like 15 minutes. Well done. The final item today is commissioner communications, and Chair just calling on each commissioner to see if they want to give any updates.
Martha, do you have something you'd like to say?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you for asking.
Commissioner Savis.
Don't have a lot to say. I just am very hopeful that we'll have a calm and orderly inauguration day tomorrow, and there will be hopefully peace, a peaceful day across our United States. And I just ask everyone to be calm and collective, and hopefully, again, there won't be any protest or any activity. Just very concerned about that.
I echo those that sentiment, Commissioner Savis. Thank you for bringing that up. Commissioner Schull.
Chair Smith, I have nothing for today.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing either, and Commissioner Fisher has been excused. We will see her at 1:30. Anything else, Gary?
Nope, you were recessed until 1:30 p.m. today.
Thank you. Bye.